something. Oh, good. Okay, great. I don't know. It looks like I'm being recorded now.
Yeah, so I have started the recorder so that
This is good. You know what? I appreciate it actually. Okay. All right. So, okay. So just to recap, there are very few tutorials that have been given on Git that are focused on multiple people participating in a Git session to do something. It's usually, here's how to use Git as an individual user. And I wanted to have something that actually shows how to work together. Okay, and do something, even if it's something simple. And the simple thing we're going to do is we're going to just like all be registered developers who are going to fork my repo. And then you're going to issue, like, you're going to make some changes, and then you're going to ask me to absorb those changes. Then you're going to bring your copy up to date with what the latest and greatest version is. So this is like what we call continuous development. It's where we're all, and we iterate as a team. And this is why when you're working as a team with Git, you also should have a channel that you're communicating in where maybe the notifications go to, or at least you signal to each other that, hey, I'm making a pull request to George now. Stay tuned for these latest updates so you can come up to speed. Okay. In the course of doing this, you're probably going to have a million questions, and I know we only can go till 5 o'clock. So I'm going to really try to move efficiently. And I, even from my own standpoint, I may not be able to stay too much later than 5 o'clock, but if people are wanting to stay and aren't throwing things at their screen, I will probably continue talking if there's a desire for that. Okay. Just some preliminaries. We're going to do those now. So, like knowing at least how to open your terminal is important. Okay. And so that's thing number one. I would like to get a sense I don't know if there's a way to do this with maybe someone could do a poll, or has anyone done a poll in Zoom before? Okay. If you could do a poll just to find out how many people can, what platforms they're using or something like that, that would help me. But I'm going to keep talking while you're doing that. If it works, great. Or people could even mention in the chat so I can kind of do some on the fly data science to understand what platforms you're using. But basically, I speak all three: Linux, OS X, now called Mac OS, with Homebrew, and Windows subsystem for Linux too. In fact, I'm actually on a computer with Windows subsystem for Linux too, but what I'm sharing with you is my virtual Linux desktop. Okay, we need to have Git installed. So basically, if I go over to my terminal here, if I type which Git, I should see something like user bin Git. Okay, that means that I'm actually getting the Git command. And then, of course, if I type which GH on my computer, I will see that I have GH coming to be by way of Linux brew. You don't have to use Linux homebrew to get GH. You can just simply, okay, so there's GitHub CLI. Okay, so you can go to here, and then it will automatically take you to the correct thing for installing. Okay, you can see here that on Linux, the installation instructions for Ubuntu are what you usually will see. I'm assuming most people have some, it looks like a mix of Linux and Mac. So, and if you're on Mac, now I happen to have used Homebrew on the system, you would just say brew install GH. Okay. So Homebrew actually works on Linux too, by the way. And this is a way of picking up packages without having to do those instructions you see on the Ubuntu instructions there. But, so I'm not going to reinstall. I'm going to just wait till that finishes doing what it's doing, but I should not have to install it on my computer. Okay, so that's the thing. And you can see I'm up to, in fact, it is updating my version of GH right now. Okay, so this will give me Homebrew. So if you follow those instructions, you can get Homebrew. You can get the GH client installed. Everything I'm showing you can actually be done with or without GH though. But the reason I'm talking about GH is that it makes things so much easier for you as a user, because you don't have to learn all these advanced things like how to set up a Git remote and that sort of thing. And I'll introduce those concepts as we come up to them. Okay, so it's the part of the talk where I start to lose my voice a bit, so hopefully I will survive. But okay. So then, so like I said, you want to get those two commands, okay, and you can take your time to do that. I'll try to go a little bit slow for these parts, just so everyone has a chance to get things going. Also, Dario, who's on the call, has set up GH on, Ubuntu. So if anyone runs into problems, maybe you can just, ping, we can maybe ping him in the chat and he might be able to just answer that question if he's allowed to do it.
Okay. Yeah, in case, because he's now, yeah, I think Dario should be
Okay,
able to.
great. Okay, so basically that's, the preliminaries. Okay, so there's only, so in a nutshell, there's only two commands you really have to have installed. And then from there, we're going to be able to complete our tutorial fairly easily. Just to recap, I frequently make a distinction between Git and GitHub, and it's very much intentional. Git is anything you could do with Git, and does not require the presence of GitHub. Okay. And GitHub is where we are actually needing GitHub for something specific to our tutorial. Okay. So, and I have intentionally picked a lane here. Okay. So I want to say, like, because I often get asked the question, why not GitLab? Why not Bitbucket? And the answer is very simple. GitHub is what started almost all of this. Okay. And even after the acquisition by Microsoft, they are still creating crazy things that I didn't even think were possible. All right. So they are, you probably all heard there's this like open coding assistant that it's called the Copilot. It uses AI to help you, like, find, for example, let's say there's a method you're looking for in your code or something. Okay, so they're doing all kinds of crazy things to build on top of, other innovations that are happening within the Microsoft programming languages group. Microsoft also is making Visual Studio Code. Microsoft is also has really made it very clear that GitHub is allowed to operate very independently within Microsoft. Okay, so I was a little skeptical at first, but they've really lived up to what they promised the community so far, and they're giving back. Okay. And frankly, we need to have a good company behind whatever open source project the hosting site there is, that really is focused on the commitment to the open source principles. Bitbucket and GitLab, I think that they both are strong alternatives, but they don't have all the things that we're talking about here. But they do have pull requests. Okay, so that's the most important thing. Anything I'm teaching you here today will work in those systems, but you will have to potentially investigate the most effective way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to try to make sure to keep things as generic as possible, but my recommendation, and especially because I also think in terms of my students, like, I mean, companies recruit people based on looking at GitHub activity. They don't recruit people using the other systems. Okay, I know this from people I talk to in the industry. Okay, so, all right, so basically the first thing we want to do is to set up an SSH key. Okay, now there's a hard way to do it. Okay, so if you go to github.com, all right, you can see the URL for this is going to be the repo we're actually going to use as the master repository. And then all of you are going to fork this at some point. Okay, but first we need to do these preliminaries. So settings, okay, and you can upload your SSH key to here. Okay, that's the way you can do it. But I want to tell you that if you get GH set up, it's much easier. Okay, so this is the important thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you, like, so I already have my SSH key set up. So what you do is you basically say new SSH key. If you want to do it this way now, you can do it that way and it's harmless. You just say my key. If you don't have a key, that's where you're going to want the next thing I'm going to show you. Okay, but if you have one already, then you just simply, upload your file from .ssh/. ID. Usually it's like ID RSA.pub or ID. This is like what most people get as a default. Okay, so upload that into that field there. Okay, but what I'm going to show you is different because it does it all for you. Okay, so GH. If you do GH minus minus help, you will see that I'm going to make this a little bigger here to create a even better experience. Okay, because the help screen sometimes goes more than 24 24 rows high. But when I started my career, in graduate school, the monitor was 80 columns by 23 rows. So that's why I often use a default size. But see, there's a help screen, and unfortunately, like many things, there's a bewildering number of options. But because I'm doing this as a tutorial, we're going to focus on one thing at a time. So the GH, okay, auth login. That's all you have to do. And you basically say, I want to log in. So keep in mind, I am kind of assuming here also that you're on a system where you have access to the desktop browser from your terminal, okay? So it should work for most people. So you can say github.com here. And then, of course, because I'm already signed in, it's asking me if I want to authenticate again. Okay, so I'm going to say yes. Okay, all right. And then you can say your preferred protocol for HTTPS or SSH. I'm going to say SSH, and I want everyone to strongly consider using SSH for your protocol because for one thing, it's better for security. But for another thing, it means that you can use your SSH key to deal with all the login issues. And you can even keep the state using SSH agent. You can use to keep the state open so you don't have to keep typing passwords again and that sort of thing. Okay. And yes, thank you for Carlos for adding that point on Ubuntu. You can use snap to install GH as well. Okay, that's really helpful. Okay. All right. See, we're following the true open source philosophy where people are helping me to make my talk even more successful. That's our goal. Okay. So as you can see, I can generate a new SSH key if I want to. Now for me, I'm going to say no. For all of you, you should say yes. Okay. And then, well, maybe I'm going to have to say yes. Okay. Enter a passphrase. Now, what I usually tell you is if you're generating a key for your own account, you actually don't want to have a passphrase there because this is a key that's only on a computer you trust connecting to a remote computer you trust. Okay. And at least OpenSSH enforces that your key is not supposed to be readable before it tries to use it. Okay. So again, though, if you really are worried about security, you should be typing a passphrase here, but you can see what I just did. I hit the enter key. So I basically said that it's okay for you not to do one. And then the last thing you need to do is you need to authenticate with the web browser. Okay, and you'll see what will happen here is you hit enter. Now look at two things. First of all, it says there's going to be a one-time code you need to enter. Okay, so you might want to copy that right now with your mouse. Be careful not to do Control-C in Ubuntu because it will kill the GH command and we're not finished yet. Okay, so hit enter. I think you can do Shift Control-C, but I was too scared to try right now because I'm giving a tutorial and people expect me to finish. Okay, so then hit enter. Okay, and now you'll see that it's going to activate and trust this device as a client. Okay, so you just paste that in there and hit continue and then say authorize GitHub. If you don't do all these steps, you're not going to be allowed to do any of the things I'm showing you. I now have to enter my password. Now that could be tricky. Okay, yes, okay, I was successful. Okay, if you have two-factor authentication, you may also be asked to enter that. What will be great is when people get to a point where at least 3 to 4 of us have this working, because actually for the tutorial to be successful, we don't all have to do it. We just need a few of us who are able to do it so you can see what's actually happening. Okay, and then, hopefully we can, hopefully all of you will get there though, to be able to do as much of this tutorial as possible, maybe by going back and even reviewing the video later, which Carlos has graciously decided to record for us. Okay, so so is that cool? So the authentication was complete, and then it asks you to hit enter. If all goes according to plan, you get some really beautiful curses, terminal graphics here showing check marks. Authentication token was good. GH config set whatever. That's just saying to set the protocol to SSH. Okay, configured the Git protocol, blah, blah, blah. And now everything's working. Okay. And so this is like a rather, so you can see it took us about 5 to 7 minutes just to get past this point, but now things are going to hopefully start going a little more smoothly. If anyone can even announce to the chat that you were able to get GH working using the method. Yeah.
Yeah, please. So please, if you have been able to follow the steps, can you let us know in the chat so that?
Yeah. Okay, good. So Alberto has gotten it going. Vincent has gotten it going. This is great. Okay. I would like to give maybe just a minute or so for people to try. If you can just, I'd like to get like 5 to 7 people doing it. But like I said, I'm happy if everyone gets it going too.
Maybe a couple of minutes we can get.
Yeah, let's do that because it's really it's really, because obviously if we were in person, I would just wait until people looked at me and said, yes, things are working. It's a little tricky.
It is
a little tricky.
It is.
Okay.
Remove your account. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Alberto.
It looks like some happy things are happening.
Yeah.
So it looks like right.
Yeah, so let's wait.
There are different states of existence, happy and not happy. So, and I think we have only like, I guess I see we only have 10 on this part of the call at this point, right?
On the panel, yeah, but attendees there are more.
Oh, I see. Right, we're acting as the panel, right? So I don't know all the people who are right, because some of the people who are posting in the chat are actually not on the panel. That's right. Okay, I got it. Okay, great. So anyway, so now and then the thing is, what I'm going to do is, as soon as we get this going, I'm going to ask somebody maybe to try this command, and then if they're willing, I will stop sharing for a moment, just so and if you're willing to share your terminal, so so everyone can see what they're supposed to be seeing. Okay, so let me, I'm not quite ready to go there yet. So just a minute here. Okay, so now, so let's do Git. Okay, so we're getting at so basically now the interesting thing is we're going to clone the Cyber Columbia tutorial. This is the wrong link. So let me make sure I set this up correctly for you, because I want this to be correct when I post it publicly as well. So, okay, so this is the actual URL for this is the Git URL, and I do want people to use the SSH one if possible, because this is, again, I'm trying to show you the correct way to use Git. And so there's the Git tutorial is at github.com, GK through Revocables Cyber Columbia. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually create what's called a fork. Okay, now first of all, before I do that, I want to show you something in the web interface for the, so if you look here, if everyone can look at my screen for a moment, this is the landing page for the repo we're using for the purpose of this tutorial. Right now, it contains a folder Dario, which has a file that Dario created for me about 2 hours ago. Okay, and he actually did this using commits and a pull request. Okay, so, and then the other thing I want you to see is that like the number of forks is equal to 1 right now. Now you can fork my repository through the web interface, but it's not as effective as using the GH command line to do so, because the GH command line client will actually fork the repo, but will also set things up so that we can track changes from what's called the master or the main repository. So there's a command we can run, and it's GH Okay, gh repo. Okay, actually I pasted this in another session, just a minute here. So let me just go back to my page. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do, let me see if I can get to the correct page here for a moment. Okay, so we're gonna do the gh repo command to clone this. So I have all these steps typed out in slides, but as I mentioned, I'm going to be showing you by example how to do things. Okay, so the gh repo command is going to be used to do this. This is actually what we're going to do here. By the way, I had not put this on this slide yet, but you're going to do gh repo and then minus clone. So this command, and I'm going to paste this in the does this chat get shown to everybody, by the way, or do I? That's only to.
It should be, there's an option. There's an option that lets you.
All panelists and attendees.
And attendees, yes.
Yes. Okay, so this is. So this is the command you should run if you have one. If you set up the gh command successfully, you'll run gh repo, okay, and then put that URL there. Okay, this is what's called a git URL. It's not really a valid internet URL. Okay, but that's what the syntax is. They've never changed it, unfortunately. And then minus clone. Now at this point, I may actually, I don't know if Dario is available to do this, but I may have him share his screen, but I have the output that also shows what happens when you do that. Okay, and before we do any commits, I'm going to take you back to a slide that's kind of important in just a minute. So, oh, I'm sorry, maybe I have a typo here. Please forgive me. This is what happens when you copy and paste carelessly. Okay. Okay, it's gh repo fork. Okay, this is the correct command, the second one. Okay, so gh repo fork git at github.com : username repo and then minus clone. Okay. Now, of course, I can run this on a different repository because this is, if I run it on my own repository, it's going to be, I already have my own repository here checked out. Okay, because I was the one who was working on this originally. Okay. So what I'm going to do though is you can see it, and then I have to pull because I have to get Dario's latest changes. Okay. So now you can see that, so even I was out of date in my checked out copy. So if this command was successful, you should be able to do, in the slide that I have here, you should build a CD to the Cyber Columbia SE 2021 folder. Okay, and then you should be able to do a git remote -v, and you should see something similar to here, except the difference will be, and maybe this is a good use for some color here. Or maybe I'll just do it in bold. You see, instead of seeing Dario's GitHub user ID there, you will see your own GitHub user ID there. So let me ask just briefly, did anyone see something like this happen yet?
So you can answer maybe in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay. All right, great. We have one. There should be a cash prize actually for.
Yes, they are smart.
Do you guys have any gift cards or something you can get? I mean, maybe Amazon gift card, for the first 5 people. Next time I will have a gift for the top 10 who can do it with even my bad explanation. Okay, that is incredible how many people have done this already. Okay, so all right, so now let me go back though a couple of, okay, again, keeping in mind these slides are just so, like, if I have to remind us how to do something. Okay, so we've covered that. So here's one thing I want to make sure everyone does on your computer, okay, that you've used it when you're working at Git. you need to make sure that your settings are correct. And I want to show you how you can check this. You can say git config -- global -- list. And this will show you all of your settings. For example, username, that's how your name is written on GitHub. For me, it's George K. Theravothical. For user email, it's gkt@cs.luc.edu. Okay, these properties are not important, but this basically says that I want to use simple pushing, which is what we're going to use for this tutorial. If you get prompted for this, you will just simply answer that that's what you want to use. And then we want to do the rebase equals false, which means we're just doing fast forwarding to come up to speed with the latest commits from wherever we're pulling from. Okay, so the most important 2 lines that you should see in the git config -- global are your username and email. You know, why is this important? You know, just when you're on, because when you go to the GitHub public page for your project, you know, your commits will show up here. I want to show you this part. This is kind of important there. Okay. Hold on, let me go to the main page. You see how like on the main landing page for your repo, you can see the commits. And if you don't set the username and the email properly, then you won't see like proper information in the commits. Like GK Theravothical here is the commit. Okay. All right. It's mostly about the git history though. Like when I do a git log, okay, you see how all the changes that have happened in the git history show. Like here's George K. Theravothical gkt@cs.luc.edu. Here is Dario, who came in with his pull request. Okay. Okay. And you see how it's smart enough to know the ordering of the commits because they are in order. And you know, even like the local time is shown here. You know, Dario is way out east, right? Probably in the ocean somewhere. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so just
I
it just
am
says
here, Joe.
okay, great, Dario. Okay, so that is, you know, this is what happened from earlier work we were doing. So basically what our goal is, and I would consider this a pretty big success if I can get through this part of the tutorial, is that I teach everybody how to make some commits, okay, and then to be able to you know, get your commits merged in with the master repository, and then you can bring your copy up to date with this. Okay, and we'll see how far we can get after that. I mean, I have a lot of things I want to show you, but this will be one of the most important things, is if we can get to this point where we understand the distributed concepts of how we can do distributed commits, collect the results of the commits, and then we're going to do like a release also to show that we can release a zip file of the repository. Okay, so all right, so I hope everybody is still with me there. Okay,
There is a
So,
question, I
yeah.
think, George.
yeah. Oh, that is the I think that question is just about the poll.
Yeah, I put something about the poll, but someone's Alberto is Mario Ceballos is asking, does GH set up the user email and username automatically?
You know,
I
I'm
have
not
that-
100% sure actually. Dario, can you know, well, it is possible that it did. Did it show up for you when you do git config -- global -- list?
Yeah,
It would be
I'm
good
not-
to.
Yeah,
Huh?
the person said that
I
had set them
did.
up for manually. Sorry, go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
I think I did git config global list and they appear, but it is a normal git command.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mhm.
But I think the question was also asking us
Yes.
whether they were also asking us whether it does it automatically for you. I think the answer
Yes.
I think the answer is probably yes. But I guess what I'm going to ask Alberto is because he's the one who asked the question, right? Ask him, did he have to set the username or did it automatically show up for him? I'm sorry to say I don't know the answer because mine was already set up a priori. So So is that yes to my question, or is it yes that it did it for you, Alberto? Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, it is.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, some
Okay.
questions, like it's like a parallel universes kind of thing. There's some questions we'll never know the answer until we enter that other universe. Okay, so I'm sorry, but this is what happens when we have I can't, it's very hard sometimes to do this exact superposition of states, when it comes to, okay, that proves that I did actually study physics at one point. Okay, so anyway, so let's keep going. So basically this is where we're at now is the fun part. Okay, this is the part where you get to really do something. Okay, so what I want is for everybody to kind of mimic what Dario did. So first of all, make sure obviously so first of all, let's make sure everyone knows what's going on. So you did the GH repo fork, and with the clone option, let's just do a quick sanity check. I want you to do a git remote -v. I'm going to make this a little larger because I am worried that if I can't see it well, maybe it's not showing well for everyone else. So git remote -v. Now mine only says origin because remember, I'm the maintainer. I'm in charge of this highly important project we're working on called Cyber Columbia Software Engineering 2021. What you see is something like this on the left-hand side, which is where the origin is coming from your copy of the repository. Okay, that's what that means. That's Dario's. Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you a little cause and effect here. So if you did the clone, I think some people have done this fork with clone, right? So if you see how we have six prize winners. Okay, there they are. Okay, so this proves that you did it correctly. All of you are eligible to continue to the next steps because it means that you not only did it successfully through the GH client, but you have probably got everything that you're seeing in this copy of the output that Dario shared from his session earlier. Okay. Future version of this tutorial on YouTube will probably have at least me and Dario, appearing in the video at different times so you can see what's happening from different perspectives. Okay, but I think the good news is that people are actually where they need to be for the remaining steps. So this is actually very encouraging. Okay, so basically so when you do an LS on you should actually CD to the Cyber Columbia SE 2021 folder. Now, what I want you to do is to make a folder. You can use your name, last name, first name, whatever. Like, so for example, if you were Carlos Alvarez, you might say make dir Carlos, make like that. Okay. All right. And then you do ls, you see it's there. And then for the purpose of this, we can use a magical, we can use the text editor to create a file, but I'm going to be lazy and I'm not going to commit these changes here. I want Carlos. Carlos, did you actually succeed in doing the GH thing also?
Well, actually, I was left behind because I was tending to other things.
Oh, okay. Actually,
So
that's okay. That's okay. So I'm
was-
gonna just show what Carlos would be doing if he were actually, but I'm not gonna make any commits of any kind. I could safely do it though. And then what I want you to do is to be inside that folder, okay, and just make a file like touch. If you want to make an empty file, you can just use the touch command, okay, or you can make you can say cat Carlos.text. Doesn't have to be the same now. So Carlos was here. Okay, sort of. Okay. All right, so I want you to do that with your username. Okay, and then please don't do any commits or anything until I tell you what to do next. So if everyone can create their folder named after themselves and a file. Now we're doing this also so each of us has a folder, and then you could also continue making changes to that file without running into conflicts with other people. Okay, that's the goal. Because again, we're not doing every single thing. We're not trying to simulate every single problem that happens in Git. we're really trying to learn how to use Git for teamwork and how to collect data from a team in a distributed way. And you notice something I mentioned there, I mentioned data instead of code, but of course, code is just a form of data. So in this tutorial, we're just simply creating text files, and then we're gonna, that way I don't have to have a complicated programming example for this. Okay. All right. Okay, so anyway, now I'm going to remove Carlos Alvarez from mine because someone else is going to. So basically, once you've created a folder and a file within that folder, if you can let me know, so I can then go to the next slides, that the next part that shows you how to commit and issue a pull request, because that's the part that's really the fun part here. Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Vincent. Okay, so so basically, and I had my slides have, by the way, Carlos, I will be distributing these slides to everyone.
Great.
And because I do everything in a very open way, so I just want to make sure there's no trade secrets here. I'm totally giving you all of this, but I did not have I did not have everything completely ready to give it to you well before the talk. So
no problem. We will distribute it. You can send them to me and we will distribute them.
Okay, great. All right. So basically, the slides say what you're supposed to do. Okay, make dir cd and just create a file. You can put anything in the file you want to, though. So if you're like somebody who likes writing code and already knows what you're doing, just go ahead and do this. Yeah. Okay, great. Yes. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah. These slides are in Google Docs right now, but I can put a link to it. If everyone, maybe I should just give you the link right now. How does that sound? Okay, Smith. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't think to do that earlier. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and then you could just send it to, just so everyone can look at it if they want to. I agree that that's kind of important. Okay. Sorry. And yes, it is all going to be linked to the landing page as well. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, oh, you're okay. I don't know if Esteban's talking about just generally, or that sounds like a good idea though. Okay. So, all right, let me continue then. So now what I want you to do now, this is the fun part, as I mentioned, where we're now going to each add to our repo. And what I want to do is I want to start at the risk of doing it slowly, but making sure everyone understands what's going on. I want Vincent to do it first, okay, to do these commands. So he's going to take and do a git add on the folder name that he created, okay? And then he's going to do a git commit, okay, with a message that just says, this is what I'm committing. And then he's going to do git push origin man. Okay. I've seen that should say master, by the way, because it turns out that if you look at the git branch, I did actually create a repo with master as the master branch name. I don't want to go into all the details about this, but especially with all the things that are happening in US, discussions about race and slavery and things like that. We're trying to move away from words like master slave architecture to man, maybe like man and client or something like that. So but unfortunately, when I created the repo, I did not create it with the name man by mistake. So, okay. So as soon as Vincent does that, then what we're going to do is we're going to actually, okay, and you did the push, right, Vincent? That's the most important thing. And then what I want to do is I'm going to take you to the web interface for a second, okay? And I have to find, okay, now this should be easy, but Vincent Arcila, okay. And maybe I need to, which one is your, oh yeah, okay, cool, okay, cool, okay, great. Well, you see, and Vincent actually seems to be using GitHub quite a bit. All right. But the key thing is what I want to show you is the commits here. Okay. So first thing you'll notice is that the commit was just made 1 minute ago, and there are 6 commits. Now, if you look here, you'll see that in this commit, Vincent added a folder. Okay. And this folder contains the text file that says this is Vincent's folder and file. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now the thing is, what's really interesting is that this commit, and I'm trying to look for where that, normally this will show, but if you do like a git log, okay, well, okay, hang on a second here. I want to show exactly where that message is because it's supposed to show here. Might be on the side here. Well, anyway, let me just show you like what's going on here because this is kind of an important instructional thing. Okay, so I'm going to open up a second window to the right for a moment. Okay, tiling it. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my landing page. Okay, so this is one thing because it'll shed a lot of insight for actually how Git is doing some of the magical things it's doing. So it's essentially building a data structure that you can see here. This is going to hold on. Yeah, these. In fact, I think that little icon is, yeah, showing like, you know, so you can see there's that shows like how many items are in the history. But if you look at the difference between right and left, you will see that here, these are the hashes for the commits that are in the current history. And then, you know, Vincent pulled in this history, you see, and because the last commit, the head commit here is 725. And this is the one that where Vincent made a change against that commit. Now, in fact, others can make a change against that commit too, and Git is smart enough to be able to reconcile all of these changes because it knows what the base change set was for the, you know, what things were like before the changes that you made. Okay, now, but this also shows why I'm being really careful to make sure everybody's creating a different folder because I don't want any conflicts to happen. So I'm kind of pretending to be a project manager saying, you know, if you're going to change something, please change it this way because we don't even have a big enough project yet where I can manage it down to the file level. Okay, so what we're going to do is, so now Vincent is going to issue a pull request. Okay, using the next part of my presentation. Oops, hold on. Oopsie. Okay, I knew it's the problem is when you're in a virtual machine, it can be sometimes difficult to find the task switcher here. Darn. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Bear with me. I'm trying to find my actual slides again. Okay. All right. So, all right. So basically we did, you know, now this is the part where I want Vincent to do a pull request and then I'm going to ask other people to follow the same thing and do it. Okay. So the thing is for here, what you want to do is you want to, for this, I am actually going to go to the webinar. I'm going to go to the web interface to keep track of what's happening. But what I want Vincent to do is to do like something like this. And please, you can customize the message. You don't have to use exactly this message, but go into your, from the command line inside your checked out folder, you're going to do GHPR create title. You can say my, you know, add my page or something. And then you don't have to put the body there. And then, but I recommend doing so, putting some kind of body there so you don't get so many prompts for additional information. Okay. So if you can try that. Okay. So for example, maybe do something like this. Okay. And maybe put your name here. All right. So if Vincent can do that, then I'm going to show, in fact, I'm going to try to make this happen in real time here. It's kind of tricky. So don't do it too fast, Vincent. Okay. All right. Because this is kind of fun to watch. Okay. Oh, Vincent is way too fast for. I just said the second Amazon gift card out. He probably already knows how to do this, but that's okay. All right. So anyway, but remember, we're trying to pass on knowledge to others. So it's actually good that some people here know how to do this. Okay. So here is the pull request saying, you know, is this, you know, is this, you know, this is like, here's my change. Okay. And I can actually look at what Vincent did. Now, sure enough, I'm able to see the actual change that was made. That's the commit that was made, and in fact, there could be multiple commits that are part of a pull request, but we're just doing one at a time now to see this happening in real time. Okay. So what's really cool about this is that, and I can see that even another one has come in. You see how that has happened there? Okay. The pull requests are coming in. Now, what is a Git maintainer to do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this pull request because I've approved it. Okay. And I want to point out that you actually can, okay, hang on, I was trying to see where that is. Yeah, if I go to this pull request, I can also do a review of it. We're not going to be covering anything about review profoundly because basically my review is nice job. Okay, and I'm going to say approve. I can also say I want you to make more changes before I'll approve it, which means you'd have to come up with a new set of commits to add on to what you've done already and issue another pull request. Okay, so just like that, I've said nice job. Okay, hopefully Vincent is happy and with his contribution. Okay, and then I'm going to merge the pull request. Okay, and I'm going to confirm the pull request. Okay. Now, for those of you who are waiting for your pull request, don't feel bad. Okay, I'm very slow, so I have to like review them all methodically. But I hope everyone knows that like what I'm trying to say about that is that the pull request is something you should think about. Okay, whether somebody's making an acceptable contribution. Let me now take you back to where you want to be, which is at the command line. Okay. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is, oh my God, I can't believe it's already 4:58. I must be too slow. Okay, so I'm going to try to go a little faster, but I'm going to pull. We might need about another 15 minutes or so. Is that fine?
Yeah, I think 15 minutes is okay.
You know what I mean? Just so because if I get past this part, then I feel like the rest is something that you can, you will be able to learn. These are kind of the hard parts actually. Okay, so basically now what I want to do is I want you to first notice that if I do an ls on my copy, what do you notice here? Well, first of all, you notice that I only have Dario's changes. I don't have Vincent's changes. And also if you look at the log, I'm definitely not up to date with what's been happening since my last pull. So I'm going to do a pull to incorporate those changes that came from Vincent. Okay. And now you will see that in my folder, miraculously, Vincent shows up. Okay. Now, I also happen to know there are other people waiting for their changes to be absorbed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I merge those in first. Then I'm going to incorporate all of them and push them back to my copy and have all of you update your copies so that you're seeing the latest changes. And then you'll also update your own remote copy. So that's the part that's a little tricky. And that's why I said I need a few more minutes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, at the risk of like kind of being really lazy, I'm going to approve all of these. Okay. So you see, and the reason I'm going to be lazy is because of this nice little green button you're seeing here. If there was something bad happening, this will be a red button saying there are conflicts. Okay. Okay, so that's, again, longer tutorial will show how to deal with conflicts in detail, but that's something that is the best way to avoid conflicts is the same as avoiding deadlock, as dealing with deadlock in an operating system. You want to avoid it if possible. Okay, so we're gonna do it that way for now. Okay, so I'm gonna take all of these pull requests now. Okay, and I'm gonna merge them in. Wow, you guys are amazing. Okay. Checking, you see there's no conflicts because I'm doing everything relative to the previous known state that was safe. Okay, that is, I'm the system integrator. So I'm actually handling these one by one to make sure they don't break my system. I could also do them, I could also merge, push, merge, push, merge, push. What I want to do is I want to get them all in so nobody feels like I left them out. Okay. All right, because otherwise that would be a very bad tutorial. You don't want to make the participants feel like they're their contributions were not worth it. Okay. And then finally, pull this last pull request. So again, even though I did not write a nice job on all of yours, you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, now, so those are all merged in. Okay, and now if you look, you are going to see that I can look at the commit history here. Okay, let's go back to my view. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to find that page I had here. Just a second. Okay. Oh yeah, I am already on my page. Silly me. Okay. So if I go and I look at the commits now. Okay, wait, issues, hold on. Code. Commits. You'll see that there are a bunch of commits here. Okay. And all of these merges that I have performed here. Git knows the correct order of everything, just so you know. Like it knows the order because this is like a, you know, like it's like temporal logic. It knows the actual order of events, all right, and can sort out the order. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull everything so I get everybody's contributions. And now you will see that in my copy, okay, your copies all still only show your stuff, right? Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to now take and I'm going to say, well, I need to know. So if I do this, I'll do a git log, right? And the most important thing to notice is that in this log here, it says that I am up to date with the origin. Okay. Now, by the way, all of you can now do something on your end to come up to speed with where I'm at, because I say git pull, or what I did is I just did a git pull, which was probably not showing, you know, I should really say git pull origin master, but that's the default. If you are, you know, if it's just a single repository that you're responsible for maintaining, but you all are going to do the following. You're going to say, so the thing is, let me go back to this page for a minute. So we did the pull request and all of you have had your pull requests accepted. So the thing is, if you're going back to look at my slides later, you'll know where we were in the tutorial. We're actually quite far. Oh my God, this is great. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I get excited when I finish talks on almost on time because I never finish talks on time, which is why everyone's like, you should give 2 talks. I'm like, I know that, but I thought I could finish it on time. Okay. All right. So anyway, here's what you need to do now. First of all, if you remember what I said earlier, the git remote command is a very important thing because that shows you whether you have the upstream link set up correctly. Okay. Now what this output means is that, you know, for fetching, that is for getting changes, you can have one URL, and for pushing changes, you can have a different URL. They did this in GitHub because they wanted to be really general, but unfortunately it just confuses the whole world. But luckily, when we did that GH fork, it automatically set the upstream URL correctly for us. And it's the same for both pushing and pulling, okay? Pulling is just a form of fetching where it also automatically changes all the files in your local copy. Okay, so if you want a working definition for that, this whole tutorial is designed to be not so formal and focused on like learning by doing. Okay, so like there's a lot of theoretical stuff I could go into that would probably just scare everybody, including myself, to death, actually, because Git is a very complicated tool and I'm trying to make it as accessible to us as possible. And when I saw that question about the math and other disciplines, that's why I'm doing it this way. I want to make it approachable to people who maybe don't do this every day. Okay, so that's the key thing is you're going to now do git pull instead of origin master. And this is for all of you who actually, you're going to do git pull upstream master. Okay, that's what you're going to type. Now, if I do that, it's going to say there's no such thing as upstream because I did not fork my own repository. Okay. I'm just really realizing I could have just set upstream to be the same as my origin, and then I'd be able to do all the same commands, but still it wouldn't show you anything interesting compared to you doing it. Okay, so when Dario did this, okay, let's do git. So when Dario did this, if you take a look at this slide, and I apologize for not being in the proper presenting view here, but that's because I had to change something. Okay. So just take a look at this slide here for the moment. Okay. This is what Dario saw. Okay. He basically saw that his branch was being brought up to date with the upstream branch. Okay, master. And then it fast forwards. Those hash values you see there are the commit IDs that it's enumerating to bring your copy up to date with the remote copy. Okay, so remember when I was showing you that log of git changes, those hash codes, that's what's actually happening. Okay, so you should have seen something similar. So before I go further, does everyone now see that their folder has has the content from all of the other participants who were able to do their commits?
Yeah, it maybe if it's the case, yeah, then thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's going to work for everyone because, and I'm telling you, you won't believe how, like when I did this tutorial the first time, so many bad things happened because we did not have an easy way to set up the upstream. So I had to teach people all of the raw git commands for setting upstream, and many bad things happened. Everyone still liked the tutorial, but it took us almost 2 times as long to get to this point. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that just the fact, so what you have done already as a group of participants is you have collectively been able to create a work that contains some shared folders and some files. Okay, and we were able to do it in a distributed way with minimal interaction, actually. Like once you knew the correct commands to do, it was fairly easy. Okay, so, and then when you run your git log, now this is the beautiful thing. Okay, when you run git log, okay, you're going to see that all of the contributors' names show up there. Carlos. Okay, so Alberto, okay, Lucy, Vincent, Jose, all right, Rafael, and then Dario. Okay, in fact, Rafael, you see, he had 2 commits because he used something called a technique called nano committing, where he made one commit, maybe it was for one thing, and then he made some change to it as a second thing. Okay, so the thing is, you can all keep continually making changes to your files and then do subsequent pull requests, and if I see them, I'll even act upon them. Okay, after the tutorial's over. But this is like a really, really like key thing I wanted to get across today is how to do something like this in the first place. Okay, so because once you know how to do this, you can collaboratively create any work. All right, it's just a matter of making sure your project is modular. Like if everyone's trying to touch all the same files and folders, you'll probably get into some conflicts. So you do have to be careful, okay? And that's the only part of my tutorial that's a little bit artificial, but it was so we could focus on the key principles of how to create this. Now, where we go from here, okay, the last thing I want to say, you will notice one thing now. If I go to, I'm going to go to Alberto's, commit history, because I want to show you something. So there's one part of the loop that needs to be closed. And that is, you see how his history stops at what his last commit was, because we haven't pushed all the changes back to his fork of the master repository. So the way you do that is, okay, so I'm going to ask, so all you do is you say git push. Okay, so this is what you guys need to do. Each one of you who did your merge successfully, you need to do push now to origin master, which will just take all of the changes that we have locally and now push them back to your fork. So this is like a Z pattern. What happens is that you're working from the master repository. You make a copy to yours. Then you push back to you basically are pushing your changes to yours, and then you're pulling in any updates, but then you have to make sure it gets back to your copy. Otherwise, you're not up to date with what the current repository state is. Okay, so all you have to do is push origin master, and I don't know if Vincent's done that yet. I'm going to show you what happens. Yes, he did. You see, he did the push origin master, and now his copy is completely up to date with the master repository. Now, this is there's one thing I want to say about this that's very important when you're working on a team project. So this is what we call frequent integration. It's where the team has to say, okay, we've made some changes. We're going to make sure we end the day or the work session by making sure all of our copies are in sync. Okay, so that's the only thing you have to keep in mind is you can't just be a lone wolf being out there saying, I'm making all the changes, my teammates are unimportant. You want to communicate with your team and say, hey, I made these changes. The team leader, George, approved did the merge, and now everyone needs to get in sync. Okay, that's how good teams work. Good teams work by communicating and making sure everyone's in sync. Okay, so if you look at what's happening here, you'll probably see, going back to the list of forks, we now have 9 forks. Okay, I know it took time for everyone to get going, but if you do the parts that I mentioned, and I see your messages, I may not be able to keep up with everything after our tutorial is done, but if I'll be able to merge yours in if you actually, complete those steps in the tutorial. Okay. So you can see here, like, here is one. Okay. And I'm actually going to the commits here, and you can see that. Yep. So up to date. Let me go back to another one now. Okay. Well, Dario, I don't know if Dario pulled in everything. We'll see. We'll find out if he actually decided to stay or not, or if he got bored and left. I think Dario had to leave. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So I should go to the actual repo just a minute. Okay. Okay. So right now, yours have been, I did your merge, but you haven't pushed you haven't done it. You haven't pulled upstream and pushed back to your origin yet. Okay. But that's something that everybody can do. So what else would, just to, I want to close for 2 minutes just so like you have some things you can think about after. And like I said, I'm always interested in doing something again, and I'll make sure like when I make the full YouTube video, everyone gets it so they can try it on their own, right? Because to me, like this stuff is really worth learning. But I just want to say, like, so the point I made about coordination is very important. If you want to be successful with Git, you still have to talk to each other. It's like being a musician in a band. You don't just play your own music and not listen to what other people are doing. If you don't listen to the percussion, I mean, especially I know in Colombia, the music is really good, so, if you don't listen to the percussion section, I mean, people will probably wonder why you are even bothering to be part of the ensemble. Okay. Because there's a very great tradition of collaboration. Okay. So I always use music as a metaphor for everything in my life because I'm very into music as well. And so the other things that I did not cover are how to work with issue tracking. I'd hope to get there, but basically, now that you've done this, you can replicate this tutorial locally and even do some of these things within your research group. So you can make some issues in the issue tracker, and then you can use these magic keywords in your commit comments, when somebody on your team maybe pretends to fix an issue or something like that. Okay, so, and then when you use those comments, then once the merge request is accepted, once the pull request is accepted, those issues will automatically go from open to closed and so on. Okay, so that's one of the things I talk about. I talk, about then like how to use releases, we can actually do something like that right now, because that's a fairly easy topic compared to my issue tracking one. But if we go back to the main repository, like if I go to releases, I can just simply say create a new release. This can also be done at the command line, but I'm going to do it here because just in the interest of time, if everyone's okay with that. But you say something like v0.1. Oops. v0.1. That's what's called a semantic version number. I have information about that in my slides. Okay. And then we're going to base it on the master branch. Release title is what we were able to finish because George talked too much. Okay. And then we'll say it still is a pretty decent release. Okay. Right. We'll say it's pre-release, also publish. And there you can now get the source code from what we did today as a zip file. All right. And you can download that. Okay. I'm going to download it to my downloads folder just to show you. And I get this. So it downloads. And I unzip -l cyber Columbia.zip. And there are all the files associated with the release. You see it even in classic open source style. It has the release tag there. Well, like I said, I could go on pretty endlessly about this, and I'm now realizing that when I was invited and told I could spend 2 hours, there was a reason for that. But I hope this gave people a good idea of how to use this, I think, rather understood gem that's known as Git. It's like, this is like one of the programs that is on my, if I were going to a desert island, I would take Git with me because it's so awesome. And I would even consider having my own GitHub server in case the internet is bad. But yeah, so are there any quick questions for me? I'm just a little disappointed I couldn't make it all the way through, but I still got through almost, 80% of the second part of my talk.
Thank you very much, George. So I don't know if there are some quick questions before.
Yeah.
So you can put them there in the chat, in the Q&A session.
Yeah. And are people only allowed to ask by chat, or can they can ask me if they want,
Yeah,
open?
they can also, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, or they can ask me just in chat. That's fine.
I cannot open the microphone.
No, that's okay. I just really like meeting people. So it's especially to give that personal touch. But if anybody has any questions, please ask. And I'm more than happy to spend a few more extra minutes for you. And then
yeah, so let's see if there are some questions in the.
And of course, I'm deeply honored that everyone has so many nice things to say, but and sometimes, sometimes things are even better than you think they are, but I'm always,
no questions, but they are saying thank you.
Yeah.
Really nice tutorial.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to the YouTube video also.
Yeah, we're definitely going to make it, because the thing is, I'm getting so much demand for how to do this, because it's extreme. And it's actually, just to make one final point about this, the distributed workflow thing is very complicated. One of my friends who used to be a postdoc at Argonne, he is the one who got me hooked on these distributed workflows. His name is Sebastian Boisvert. He's now in Quebec. And what the things that can be done with this are just incredible. It's just like, it's such an incredible way of thinking. And we're really, this is just really like the tip of the iceberg in some respects, because there's just so much that can be done with this.
Yeah. Oh, there's a question.
Sorry, I had a question. Is it about the dilemma between a GitLab, GitHub, because GitHub is part of Microsoft is civil, etc. But what is the real situation, especially in the software engineering for science, for example, a national lab that use a source code? Really, the security concern is true or not?
Well, okay. So first of all, I have a lot of interests in security. And so I will just say that anything that you do, as soon as you turn on your internet connection, is a security risk potentially. Okay, so this is a very important thing because, you know, like, and this is why, for example, like, I mean, when I work on a supercomputer, you know, I have to use what's called an access token to get to that supercomputer, but it could be hacked, you know, just like a cloud server can be hacked. It's unlikely it would be hacked, but things can happen. Now, there are two issues that we must also understand. There's security, there's privacy. Many people who talk about security are really more worried about privacy. Like, so for example, they're more worried about what's Microsoft doing with my information. I want to say GitHub is kind of a special case because everything you do in GitHub is intended mostly to be public, but you can also have private Git servers, by the way, Git repositories, and Microsoft and almost all companies that host Git data are committed to respecting privacy of the users. They do not try to monetize this because it's not good business to do so. They have so many other ways of monetizing your data, like for example, your search data and other things. So like it would really offend the open source community, I think, if they did so. But to answer the other part of that question is, you can do everything by setting up your own GitHub server and, you know, like your own private infrastructure. Okay, and I had mentioned that, by the way, at the beginning of my talk. You can also, if you're worried about the possibility that your server gets hacked, you can set up a cron job on your computer, maybe on one of your servers, just to do a nightly mirroring of all of your GitHub content. Now, I work on 4 to 5 computers, so I almost always have the latest version of any repo I'm working on with GitHub cached locally. So the thing is, when you do something like a Git clone and when you keep your updates current, you're also keeping a backup because you have all of the data that it's in complete sync with whatever's on GitHub. And that means that you can also relocate it to other services. In fact, some people that I have talked to, they keep like they keep their project on GitHub and then they mirror it to Bitbucket and to GitLab. So they have like 3 hosted replicas of this software. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff you can do, but mirroring is the way to at least partially address security concerns. There's another question here, right? Yes, okay. I'm sorry, I should probably, you know, the Silvio, you know, my esteemed colleague from Oregon mentioned that your local Git is a copy, which is what I just said, of course. Sorry for not noticing that at first, Silvio. And the other thing to realize though is that the only caveat to that is you just need to make sure you're pulling periodically so you're actually getting everything. Okay. But you can automate all of that with cron. You can have like, so in fact, for really critical projects, I keep a cron job that runs somewhere that pulls the latest versions of that code just in case of a real emergency. I wish I could say all of the things I was working on are so important that the world could not live without them, but probably if my repo gets hacked, nobody's going to care. But, you know, somebody might care, you know, like if they use one of my tools. Yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, so thank you very much, George, for the talk and the tutorial. This was great. I mean, as I said, I'm looking forward for the YouTube video because I was doing some other stuff and I got lost. But I will then I will put this the recording here. I will try to make it.
And it's really, you know, it is really hard. I mean, like, you know, I mean, I'm looking forward to the day when, you know, like when some in-person, you know, things become really possible again, you know, because many of these kinds of things, when you're in a room with others, you know, you can just go over and see it from their point of view. So, you know, Zoom has come so far, but it's still very difficult to do rapid screen sharing to see what everybody's experiencing. And as you can see, we have to set things up differently if we want every participant to be able to share a screen and things like that. So it's like, it is kind of the nature of things that, you know, there will be some things where maybe we have to be left to the imagination, but I hope that this gave everyone a good starting point for being able to think about this. And I want to reassure everyone that you really can use this in your projects. And you'll see that if you actually start doing it today. The worst thing that would happen is you'd have some questions, and you can always email me.
Yeah, you will be hearing from me, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go find some kind of nice cocktail to relax this evening,
Of course.
or some cerveza or whatever. But it's really nice meeting all of you, and thank you so much for having me again as a speaker this year.
Thank you, Silvio, also, and Dario, who already left. But anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, all three of you, for again helping us and contributing to our small event. So we hope to see you again.
Okay. All right. Take it easy and enjoy the rest of Cyber Colombia.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Thank you very
Okay.
much,
Bye-bye.
George.
Bye.
Thank you, George. Bye.
Bye-bye, Juan.
Well, so now, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's this? Oh, yeah. Perfect. So we already have some.
Please go to thismenti.com and use the code that appear here, and please, we need your feedback. It's very, very important for us. We had only 3 questions, please, and we can put note a countdown. 1 minute countdown.
Yeah.
That's great to have students. We need teachers as well.
Do we have teachers? No.
No teacher. What happened?
No teachers. So we need teachers.
In the
to
panel.
teach.
That's
Yes.
not true. Carlos, you are a
There's-
teacher.
Yes, I am. I am.
But that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Wow, be a student and professional.
Mhm.
Okay, last chance. 1, 3, 2. I'm
Oh,
going to put only 10 seconds additional for finish that. No more?
no, I think we
We've seen
are
before.
like almost.
Yeah,
on-
one more.
Oh, yeah. Bachelor students. Yeah, great. Mhm. Well,
Okay. We are close to, near to close. We need to wait for 30 minutes.
I
30
think
seconds.
everyone is there. 6, 8.
No more, no more. Okay.
Oh, one. There's one person. That's it. Okay.
No, I think it's set to finish up minute.
Okay.
Then we need to wait for close the invitation.
Mhm.
Boom, and go to the next questions.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I would like to remind you, please, to register also for the sessions, or hands-on sessions for the 14th to 17th of July. So please remember that it is a separate registering. So please do that. And also don't forget for the ones that, I mean, I think it's everyone. If you want to attend to the hands-on on the IBM quantum machines, please also get your IBM ID. The links were on the email that we sent you. So, but I can briefly put them here also. So just to remind you, I'm sorry. So,
Wow, aerospace engineering. Good to know.
yeah, okay, so
New fields. Mathematics. Okay. Near to close, I am going to add 30 seconds additional.
Right, so also tomorrow we will have another great set of talks, and
Tomorrow is NASA Day.
yeah, so yeah, we'll begin at 8 a.m. This with implementation of cybers by Robert Davey from Earlham. Then at 10 we have the NASA talk, so please be here. We
Very,
will
very interesting talk.
yeah, at 10 a.m. With Nina Makodi and Patrick Moran, who is with us now. And at 11 we have meteorological models with Microsoft Azure. Then on the afternoon, we have quantum computing trends with Yuri Aglitsev. We have also bits with Nelson Vera. Unfortunately, Paulo Aragao had a health problem. He had a health issue, so he will not be able to accompany us. So I'm sorry, but we the HPC in geology talk will not be here. So yeah. So tomorrow we will, because of that, we will finish a little bit earlier, like 4 p.m. So just
Okay.
that you know.
And the last question is the rank. And start countdown with 30 seconds. Sorry.
Isn't there an option for everything?
No. Remember that we had a Slack channel. We enjoyed talk with all attendees. If you had question or you need support, please. Okay, I am going to add a 10-second additional because only had 6 person that offered a vote. Well, again, another 10 seconds. HPC core, wow. Really. Namart. Okay, thank you very much for your
So thank you, everyone.
and
Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow then. So have a good end of afternoon, and yeah, until tomorrow.
oh, last news. I created a GitHub